Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality podcast, is brought to you by eMenu Choice Point of Sale and Clark Pro. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. My goal for this podcast: educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By bringing the resident and customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Today on Tips from Trestle, I'm talking with Cherissa Kell. Cherissa is the founder and CEO of NeoTEIN Nutrition. As an athlete, wife of a former Army special operator, and mom of two, nutrition has played a vital role in her life. After using supplements for her training, she realized that the products on the market weren't meeting her needs. So after years of R&D, she launched NeoTEIN, an on-the-go collagen, protein plus electrolyte stick pack in refreshing flavors. Cherissa, thanks for joining me today on Trestle.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
So I am always, obviously, as an entrepreneur myself, I'm always fascinated by people's stories. So,
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about NeoTEIN, how you started, how you got in there, and how you really wanted to focus in on nutrition because of it.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, my boys were very young. They were 6 months and 18 months old, and we had just moved to Japan. And I was training in triathlon with the aspirations of going to the Olympics. So it was very extensive training. And it was kind of the first time I really started using protein supplements to supplement my protein intake. Busyness and kids, and I tried everything. I ordered everything I could on the market, and I just felt really frustrated with what was being offered. I felt like there were so many fillers. They were high in carbohydrate, high in sugar, and truthfully, they're very difficult to travel around with. And I was always on the go and always doing stuff like traveling and out with kids, and it just was. I felt frustrated having to have this big separate tub of something and a shaker of something. And
Yeah.
in addition to that, I also needed electrolytes 'cause I was sweating and living life. And so I was taking this supplement and this supplement and this supplement and barely taking them because I had to chug them down. The flavor was so difficult. And I just wanted something better. And I scoured basically the world. I mean, my coach was in Australia. I was in Asia. I'm from America. So I kind of looked everywhere and I couldn't find what I needed. So it was about 2.5 years of R&D. We really relied on the special operations community for testing. My community of moms, my family, my dad, my grandma here in the US. My cousin works in the aging community and she was really helpful and just kind of tested a bunch of different iterations until we landed on what we have now, which is 10 grams of protein in a stick pack. And it just makes life easier and it's because I can drink it, right? So, like, I had all these supplements, but I wasn't using them because I just couldn't drink them. So,
Yeah.
that's kinda how
No,
I got here.
yeah, no, I can definitely, I just in my own personal life and see, my wife has protein shakes and she does all that. And yeah, I mean, she's got this whole process in the morning that she has to go through. And so I could definitely
Mhm,
how that could be frustrating with all the multiples of things. And so you did mention that you had some connections with senior living, and that's kind of what I
mhm.
wanted to talk to you about. Was one of the struggles we have is how are we approaching nutrition? How are we helping make sure that we're maintaining all of the various necessary nutrients and things for our residents? And so
Mhm.
I'd love to kind of get your take on how what you're doing and what you've done can impact us in our industry with nutrition.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have a large percentage of, our consumers are kind of boomers and aging, and so we do have a lot of conversations around that. We just won a Good Housekeeping Best in Fitness award, and there's a lot of their demographic an older demographic. And so it's been really great to get feedback from them. My grandma is in an assisted living facility, and she actually called my dad the other day needing more neoTEIN because she dehydrated. And there's a huge problem in that community of just dehydration. They're just not drinking enough water. And she had to go to hospital because of that dehydration, which is
Oh,
crazy
wow.
because I sell hydration, but it wasn't readily available in her community. And so it that coupled with the falls, and a lot of times you're falling, and the problem with that is recovery, and recovery is harder if you don't have the correct amount of protein. That's why protein is so important as we get older. It's a huge way that we repair ourselves. Having correct amount of protein, the collagen is huge for that community from wound care. My mother-in-law was in the hospital recently, and her doctor actually prescribed her collagen to use for wound care because science is coming out saying that that's helpful for that. So the aging community is really in need of all of these things, and we love hearing that our customers are loving it because they just have one drink that they have to take. They don't have to take all these different things. It's just one thing and it's good. And so that's been really nice to see that we're filling a gap in that community as well.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. The past 2 or 3 weeks, I've been working with some of my clients on kind of some nutrition education. And one of
Mhm.
the things that we constantly talk about is hydration and how do we get water? Because when you age, you process water differently. And,
Mhm.
you just don't have the same sensation either, right? Like you just
Yeah.
can tell that you're thirsty or need it when you age. And so, because of that, like what you're saying, it's this it process of, hey, well, you need to drink more water. Hey, you need to drink more water. How do we get them to drink more water? Well,
Mhm.
sometimes we need to find ways to supplement that. And what you're talking about and what you've approached is it's not only just hydration, but there's other aspects of that you're
Mhm.
to solve with that. And so, with your background and the research you've done, what are
Mhm.
some of the tips or directives or some of the ideas that you could give the listeners about things that they could do to help improve senior nutrition, around hydration, around protein intake, in addition to using a product such like Neodymium?
Yeah, I would say accessibility is key. I think when you get older, oftentimes you are living alone in your home unit. And I think that when I'm home alone, I'm not handing my kids or my husband water, or feeding the dog, you know what I mean? So I don't think all the time to drink something, but if it's there and it's cold, I'll drink it, right? So like if somebody
Right.
else has it there for me, I'm happy to drink it and consume it. I think that accessibility and having refreshing drinks, if it's water with some lemon slices in it or something like that, just around different facilities where it's like easily accessible. And then it's front of their mind, right? So if they see it, they're more inclined to drink it versus, oh, I have to go to my fridge and fill up my water bottle and all those things. I feel like accessibility is probably the biggest factor, especially for my grandma. She was just like, I just didn't think to do it. And then I think like having hydration around that is tasty, right? I think that as you get older, you kind of are just like, I only want things that taste good. I did all the healthy stuff my whole life. Now I just want it to taste good, right? Like that's kind of where my dad's at. And so adding ice cubes in there, perhaps with like pressed fruit in it, or having the slices in there, or adding like a supplement, like a hydration supplement in the water that you have skirted about. I think that is also incentivizing because then it's not boring. And so then they're more likely to consume that. I think that those are probably like the biggest ways that the environment can help facilitate that for people. So when there are those gatherings, just to make it available.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind, right? I think what you're saying
Mhm.
makes sense. And well, when you think about protein, that's one of those areas that we don't seem to have a lot of talk about because you mentioned a little bit about the recovery and the need for
Mhm.
protein and one of the things that I talk a little bit about and I did some presentations on is like nutrient dense foods and how those are really necessary as we age. And I'd love to get from your background in developing your product, how that played into it because obviously hydration, check the box, that makes a lot of sense, right? But you've added more to this for a particular reason.
Technology continues to drive changes in senior care, and that includes food service. eMenu Choice is an award-winning point-of-service application for managing the dining function in senior living communities. This mobile, touchscreen-enabled software enhances the dining experience for residents while streamlining processes for staff. The flexibility and functionality of eMenu Choice makes it an effective solution for any type of senior living environment, from independent and assisted living to skilled nursing facilities. It works for production kitchens or restaurant-style service with options for per meal or a la carte pricing, and accommodates a variety of payments, including bill to account, meal credits, and credit cards. Created by a senior care provider with more than a century of experience serving older adults, eMenu Choice eliminates communication barriers between staff and residents while enabling person-centered choices and greater resident satisfaction. eMenu Choice, transforming dining for senior living.
Yeah, so NeoTEIN is protein-based because protein is so important, especially as we age. I think in my 20s, I didn't really think about it, and then I became a competitive athlete in my 30s after having kids, and I really kind of deep dove the importance of protein. And as you get older, your body processes protein differently. You actually need more of it as you get older because it's not as easy for your body to like break it down as when you're younger, like as everything
Right.
is. And protein is important for muscles, right? And if you have strong muscles, it keeps your frame solid and strong, and it keeps you erect, and it helps people so they aren't having those same falls because their body is strong. And you protein is an essential part of building strength in humans and mammals just in general. And I think it's a really we're finally starting to see science and talk about it. But I think that people always just kind of saw it as another, like saw it as meat. They didn't
Yeah.
really see the value of it. It was just something tasty, but it's more than just tasty. It's an essential part of how we as people age well.
Yeah, and I think the sources of protein sometimes factor into that as well, right? Because
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of times when you hear protein, you think, "Oh, well, it needs to be healthy, so it needs to be lean protein, so it's like chicken and fish," and nobody
Mhm.
thinks like there are a bunch of other ways to get protein, and so that leads to the inevitable deficiency or lack
Mhm.
of protein in our diets, and so makes sense for combining all of that. And you also mentioned one thing earlier that maybe you can expound on a little bit more is the collagen and wound care. I think that
Yeah.
that's not something that me not being a dietitian or having that deep nutritional background, I never really think about it until I'm doing the research on developing healthy menus. And I go, oh, you know
Yeah.
what? There's more to it than just three balanced meals a day kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, collagen is something that we don't produce as much of as we age, like everything, but it's what gives our skin the elasticity. It is what helps us when you're scabbing over and creating that sealable wound. That's collagen. That's the building blocks of all of that. And so if you don't have enough of it, which you don't as you get older, unless you're ingesting it, from like a bone broth or a supplement like either a protein shake or a collagen pill, then you're really not getting what you need to be able to heal quickly. And if you cannot heal quickly, then the wounds fester or become other problems. So it really is important as people get older to have that extra stuff. And that the nice thing about I really learned a lot about collagen through my husband's time in the military. When he got out, he had really bad joints from jumping out of airplanes in his missions, and they told him he needed a collagen supplement for the rest of his life because collagen helps support healthy joints. So it's not just about wound care, it helps the tissue in between your joints, like the cushioning in your joint, so you're
Yeah.
not like creaky. And it's stuff that you just don't think about because we don't look inside of our bodies all the time. But it's an essential part, especially as we get older, to have that to keep all of that stuff kind of lubricated. I would say it's like the lubricant of our body.
It kinda takes me back to where we started, right? Kind of talking a little
Mhm.
bit about your journey in creating NeoTEIN, right? Because all of the things we've been talking about are a part of it. You looked at it
Mhm.
more holistically, and so I wanted just a little bit talk about why NeoTEIN would be different than some of the more traditional supplements that we might see in senior living. I won't name any of them, but it's definitely different than what I've seen offered. And
Yeah.
what is that about, and why is that important?
I would say the main difference that nicotine offers is that it's easy to drink. And a lot of supplements on the market, be it a ready to drink, so like a pre-made shake or a shake you have to mix yourself, they're not very tasty. And again, as you get older, you don't want to have things that aren't tasty. You
Right.
kind of like been there, done that. And so you're not going to consume something if you don't enjoy the way it tastes. And so you see a lot of these supplements being used or purchased, I should say, for these care facilities, but not being used. And they're not good if they're not used. And the nice thing about Neotein is that it comes in flavors that are refreshing. It is something, it's in a stick pack. So either the individual who's using it can make it sweet if they like sweet things or less sweet if they don't. So they kind of get control over how it tastes, which then makes them more likely to consume it. I've seen people, they mix it up and then they freeze it in ice cubes and then they'll add it to like a big jug of water. And so then their communities can have it for like a workout, right? If you're at yoga and you offer water, they'll make it kind of like more concentrated and throw in a jug of water and then everyone can drink it. So they're getting the collagen, the protein, the electrolytes, and it's like refreshing and tasty. And that's the other thing too, is that the way that it's made, you can just pour it in these big vats of things, make it for a whole community, and it tastes good. So it's gonna
Yeah.
be used. And I think that the main difference in terms of like how people use it, they're not gonna use something they don't enjoy, like period. We're not force feeding people. And so I think that's the huge benefit to nicotine. And I learned in the process of making it, the reason most of these drinks are kind of unpalatable is because the foundation of the protein, like the whey and the pea and all of those things, if you just mix it with water itself, it's like murky, it's kind of stinky. And so to mask that, you have to add so much flavor. And those flavors usually come in the chocolates or the vanillas or the strawberries.
Yeah.
But with nicotine being a collagen-based, fortified with tryptophan to now make it a complete protein source, we can add flavors that people like. We have strawberry lemonade, cherry passion fruit, lemon lime, like drinks that people want to enjoy. And so I think that that is huge in allowing people to not just say that they have a supplement for the community, they have a supplement that people are going to use, which is the main point, right? We want them to use it. So,
Yeah. If it's not palatable, it's not gonna get consumed. I mean, that goes for anything food and nutrition related.
yeah.
Um, so this is all just fascinating to me, especially because I'm a novice nutritionist, right? That's kind of where I live in my expertise. I've been in food service for forever, but still always trying to learn. And so as we come to a close here, I do want to ask you, when you think about your work and how you've worked with Neotein and worked with the senior living communities you have, what
Mhm.
do you see kind of the evolution of senior nutrition and the future of it? And how can we improve? How will it get better? What are some of the obstacles or challenges we might be facing in the future?
I feel like complacency is a huge obstacle. I think that oftentimes people have a job and their job is to do procurement, right, for the food services. And so it's just easy to buy what they've always purchased. It's already negotiated. You already know it's going to come at these times. And so it's just easier to check that box. But it's going to take people saying, I'm willing to do a little bit more work and find something that's going to work for the community. And I think that that takes somebody who's willing to just look at other products, frankly.
Yeah.
I think that there's, especially now, we have so much research coming out saying you should be eating 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Becomes more important as you get older. It's really hard to do that. So finding ways that people can do that and meet that. It's not going to come from food alone. We know that. I can't eat that much chicken in a day if somebody forced me to, so we're having to
Right.
rely on supplements. And that requires the people purchasing the product to say, okay, I'm going to, get my hands dirty and I'm going to look at different opportunities instead of just doing what's simple and easy, because there are a lot of great products. I mean, NeoTEIN, but there are other great products on the market in protein as we have more science come out that is offering a wide variety of ways to really meet the consumer where they're at instead of forcing what we want on or what's easy for us.
I think what you're saying makes perfect sense. That's kind of, for me, one of the challenges of our industry is
Mhm.
well, we've always done it this way, or this is the way I've done it, so I'm going to keep doing it because I'm successful with it. But I think just the evolution of our understanding around nutrition and what we need to do is just, it's coming at us too fast to not try and do those things. So,
Yeah. And I
um,
think the boomers are a very educated group. And I think honestly, like for the first time really in history, you're kind of having a very educated group that has a more elevated palate or has more likings than maybe previous groups. And there's so many of them that they kind of want something better.
yeah, absolutely. Like that's a hammer to the nail, right? Of what we're dealing with. So, well, Chris, how can listeners learn more about NeoTEIN, about what you're doing, and maybe look at getting some of this product in their communities?
Yeah, we're neotein.com, neotein.com. You can also get us on QVC or Amazon. If you're looking to bring product into your facility or want to talk about that, you can reach out to me, Cherissa at neotein.com, and check us out on Instagram at neotein.
Perfect. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, and Trisha, thanks so much for joining
Thanks,
me
Aaron.
on Trestle.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Aaron. It's been great. I appreciate it.
So there it is, everybody. Another one in the books. Thanks again for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestle. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.